that occurred at Apiati in the Pristi-Ahone Valley municipality of the Western region, which killed 14 people and razed the entire community down. In its report, the committee noted that Maxam had breached regulatory processes. In a statement, Mr. Jinapor said the amount is $1 million and $5 million fine, or its CD equivalent at the prevailing commercial rate, which the company agreed with the ministry to pay to government after extensive discussions. Although the penalties for the said breaches pursuant to Legislative Instrument 2177 ranges between 600 Ghana cedis to $10,000, Mr. Jinapor imposed a hefty fine due to the nature of the totality of the circumstances leading to the tragic incident. As part of a series of protests to resist the ongoing SIM card re-registration process, which has been described as illegal and inhumane, some Ghanaian personalities who have identified themselves as concerned mobile network subscribers have staged No Calls Day today, February 8, from 6 a.m. to 12 noon, and was expected to be joined by over 7,000 mobile network subscribers who have signed an online petition against the registration exercise. The group urged Ghanaians to boycott all mobile network services. The group, made up of members of parliament, members of civil society organizations, media practitioners, and private legal practitioners, earlier called on the National Communications Authority (NCA) to cease the SIM re-registration exercise. On the line is a member of the group, Mr. Selam Brantier, to discuss the success of the campaign. Hello, good afternoon, Mr. Brantier, and thank you so much for joining us on News Hour.
Good afternoon to you and your viewers.
Salam, did the group and allies observe the hashtag No Calls Day? Hello, Salam, can you hear me?
Yes, can you please repeat the question?
I'm asking if the group indeed observed the hashtag No Calls Day today.
Oh yes, absolutely, we did. For us, it was a success because all of us who are the conveners and quite a lot of the signatories to the online, petition, notified us that they were in compliance with what we wanted to do. And we believe it has been a great success.
So what is the purpose of this particular No Calls Day, and was it achieved in your view?
So the major purpose of having this No Calls Day exercise is to simulate what would happen when on March 31st, or whichever cut-off date that the NCA and associated authorities have decided, will cut off SIM subscribers from not using their mobile phone numbers. The dip in the amount of communications and then the opportunities lost and then the inconvenience that comes up from not being able to communicate with each other is this No Calls Day is to stimulate that effect and show that this is only a tip of the iceberg of the chaos that could happen if this directive is followed through with the zeal that they intend to do it. This is because of the fact that quite a lot of people will be disenfranchised and will not be able to use their own property, which they acquired legally by submitting various forms of identification for, just because of the fact that they would not have been able to complete the process of getting a Ghana card. And most of the reasons why they have not been able to get a Ghana card is probably not even their fault. And some of the reasons why we are doing this is because this is inhumane, and it is actually an affront to people's basic rights who have gone through a legal process prescribed by law to be able to purchase a SIM card for the use of their communication ability. And that right is being taken away from them just because of a new directive that is forcing them to comply with conditions that do not favor them, especially during this period of the pandemic where different variants of the COVID virus are endemic, and then also the fact that people are being forced to queue for hours to even get a Ghana card before now queuing for hours again to be able to register their SIM cards in a process that wasn't well thought through, very well organized, and also even risks subscriber data or data of subscribers being processed by third parties that we do not know and who we do not know are even very secure to handle our information.
So, Salam, how do I believe you that today, indeed, you did not make any calls from 6 a.m. till noon? Did you switch off your phone? What did members of the group do that could really say that you did observe the day?
Well, there are also other stakeholders, for example, the Chamber of Telecommunications, who have also indicated that some of these things or some of these measures will definitely result in a dip in, subscriber traffic. However, those of us who are committed to this exercise are bound by, a coalition of honor, knowing that while this is not easily measurable by external parties, we committed to doing this and we stayed offline and we had our phones disabled or put on airplane mode or whichever mode so that we did not use our SIM cards. And the commitment here is that as more and more of us do this, the pressure will be on all the stakeholders concerned to be able to sit down and then consult and find better ways of handling this solution than the haphazard way in which it has been handled right now.
But the NCA has issued some directives aimed at creating several avenues for the same re-registration. Has this not helped in any way?
So it is very difficult to measure whether this has helped. The directive that only the national ID card be the only form of identification for registering a SIM registration or for handling a SIM registration is not the right way. Secondly, there were other ways in which they could have done this without having to expose more people to more unaccredited or unconventional routes to register SIM cards through channels that are not very secure or as appropriate as the previous registration was done. And these are some of the concerns because, you see, in handling all of this, there are so many factors that should have been considered, as well as beyond the convenience of people, even the fact that the same registration, re-registration activity, it has a dependency, and that dependency is the Ghana card. And the fact that not everybody who is a SIM card holder has direct access to getting the national ID card as quickly as they would want should have not even made us push this as the final solution. And this is what is happening now. Even now, people are still queuing for these cards. The avenues for getting these cards are limited. And in some cases, in rural areas, you will have to move longer distances to be able to access centers where they can do both of these. So when things happen like this, and you have to consider the fact that there are not everybody is in full health, then it becomes complex, or it becomes a very, very difficult thing that people get disenfranchised for something that they already have done or complied with and are being forced to recomply by very forceful means. And this is some of the things that we are talking about. For those of us who have complied till now, what stops them from into any new database where they are going to have people using only Ghana IDs going forward? And these are some of the reasons why stakeholder engagement should have been very important to be able to achieve the right end at the end of the day.
So apart from this no calls day that was put in force today, what other things do we expect? According to the group, we have a number of...
Yes, we are going to sit together and evaluate the outcomes of this. and then we will communicate to the general public what the next steps will be, because this is not going to be, or we knew that this was not just going to be a one-off event, but it has to be the beginning or the watershed of a bunch of events that will eventually cause all the stakeholders to sit together for us to resolve this in a way that is humane enough, and also in a way that ensures that we do not throw the loss of this country away just because of ministerial directives that do not have real bearing of the situations on the ground or any realistic grounding.
Thank you very much, Salam. Salam Brantier is a member of the Concerned Mobile Network subscribers. You're still watching News Alive on GBC News. Many public sector workers who come on retirement are often disappointed by the pension packages given to them. Many of them look very poor and dejected, a situation that can dampen the spirit of those in active service. The plight of the 2020-2021 retirees of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation GBC is a case in point. The said group of retirees recently held a news conference to share their frustration with the public and call for quick action to address the problems with pensions in the country. A management consultant and a former employee of SNIT, Mr. Samuel Nkansa Dramina, who was at that conference, is someone who is helping to correct the wrongs in the management of pensioners' funds in the country. We have him in the studio this afternoon to explain to us the issues with our pensions. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. And thank you so much for joining us in the studio to discuss these critical issues. Yes. We all seem to look young today, but definitely at a point, I'm just going to be like you. Sure. And whatever you're facing, I'll also go through if these things are not corrected. Thank you so much. The 2021 retirees of the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation, GBC, are very bitter about how their pension lump sum is being disbursed instead of giving them the full lump sum at once. According to them, it comes in bits, say 1,000 Ghana cedis or 800 cedis. This is very bad. Very bad. You know, it's a terrible situation, and I can't for once try to see myself in such a situation. You were at their news conference, was it last Thursday, right?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, so last Friday, I should think so, and heard their story. So what is happening to our pensions?
Generally,
is it possible that the coffers of the pension funds are depleted?
You can't say so, but generally, I think that you can posit such issues at the doorstep of the MPRA, which is responsible for all pensions in Ghana. And I believe that if work had been thoroughly done and done well, this thing shouldn't be happening. Honestly, when I came in to assist them when they had the issue, we discussed it. You could see that the whole thing rests on three prongs: the employer, the employee, and then MPRA, because they are fully responsible for all pension schemes in Ghana. So if a trustee or if a fund manager is not performing, it is a responsibility of the MPRA to ensure, because per the law, it says that they have to regulate, they have to monitor, and ensure that effective administration of the pension fund is done. But you see, it's a shock, because at this moment, early moment of a man's retirement, look at what is happening to him. Exactly. Per the law says that this second tier, which is managed by a fund manager and a trustee, should be paid as a bulk money. You know, when you go back a little bit with the old pension scheme, it was SNIT that was paying all these things. But now, there's a new scheme which MPRA is responsible. My worry is that why would the employee wait till now? It will surprise you, most of them didn't know even who was managing their second tier. Exactly. So for me, that is one failure on their part. On the other hand, MPRA also failed because I wrote to them personally on their behalf, and I had to drive there 4 times. Up to now, there's no response. All they told me, well, they are looking into it. For how long are you going to look into it? For them to enjoy their pension. The sad thing is that now they are dropping the money which is supposed to come in bulk. And the saddest aspect is that when you look at their statements from the second tier, it's blank. Gosh. No data. and then there's no interest on the money they have invested there. Then they just send a message that 80% of your pension fund or second tier has been paid. The question is, 80% of what?
Of which amount?
Exactly. You are left with 20% of what? So these are things that, to be honest, signals a very bad thing coming up. And I feel that the government must set in, because MPRA doesn't seem to be working.
So during the conference, you were said to have called on management of GBC to seek the interest of its employees by playing its role as an employer and paying its quota. What prompted this particular statement?
The reason being that I observed that most of the workers had virtually no relationship with their pension managers or pension fund managers. And this is supposed to be handled by the HR. The HR should make sure that they educate staff on who is managing either the second or third tier. These are, it calls for collaborative effort from both employers and employees. But I could see that there was nothing like that. I personally came and followed up, had to meet the director of HR, and I was just telling him that, look, you need to go to the help and assistance of these employees, because the moment you are employed or engaged, you let the person know who you're. Everybody knows about SNIT as the first year.
Yeah.
But the second tier and the third, they are virtually non-existent. Some of them even didn't know. But now they have not. And the money is coming in drops, which goes against the law, which says that it must be a lump sum, something reasonable that can sustain him.
So are these problems associated with pension only peculiar with GBC to GBC, or it is a widespread problem within the public service?
Yes, to be honest with you, if we should interview a lot of them on the streets, most of them don't know their second tier fund managers. They don't know them. I interact with a lot of them personally, and most of them don't know. So this is something that should prompt us for MPRA to go out, visit establishments, and deal with. It's a very serious issue.
So these funds coming in drops, what do the pensioners do? What alternatives
it's another very serious issue which needs to be investigated, because it shouldn't happen.
So what are the alternatives available for these pensioners?
I would advise, not necessarily pensioners, anybody working now should take interest in going for SNIT statement, request for the second tier statement and the third tier statement. You should get to know them. You should ask for regular statements. If there are issues when it comes to biodata and financial data, you should make sure that you correct them before the time is due. You don't have to wait. What I also observed was that most of the workers here hardly discuss these issues.
Of course, yeah.
They don't show interest. You may talk about other welfare. You see, staff don't talk about issues, but they normally talk about welfare,
exactly.
This bonus, this. But when it comes to pension, they forget that they are going home one day. And then they are always taken by surprise. That is why some of them are forced to even go and change their date of birth so that they can continue working. But no matter what, you go on pension.
This is a dicey situation, and it's so sad, yeah. And it's a serious issue at hand. And but finally, before you go, we often hear from SNIT that the size of retirees' lump sum depends on how much he or she was earning while in active service. So definitely, not everyone will earn high salary, but a pension should be something worth taking home after all the years that you serve, especially public service, and you go on with such drops. So let's come back to the question I want to ask you. We definitely have to have something worth taking home. Shouldn't that be the case?
What is worth taking home is relative. If you are a houseboy or whatever, your salary and the deductions would determine how your pension would be like. But let me be honest, a lot of our workers in Ghana today underdeclare their salary in collaboration with the employers. So for them, they've already taken their eggs. And then when you retire, you don't expect to take a chicken. So we have to be honest with the data we give. It will shock you. Some people in Ghana, but a chunk of our people have 3 dates of birth. And these are all key before you retire. Very, very key. How can you have different date of birth in your passport, another different date of birth on your ID card? So it's high time we all come out clean on social security matters in this country and declare the proper salary we take. That is very, very key. But you see, there is also the other aspect of missing gaps. What it means is that you were once working for company A. You moved to company B with a higher salary. That place you didn't pay. Then you left and went to C, which was a bit lower. All these things will reflect in your statement. And you shouldn't assume that having not contributed, you're going to enjoy good pension. And I think that where I used to be, there was no way I could dodge pension. I mean, in terms of contributions. It was well done and done well. So before I went, everything was duly done for me. So I don't see why it cannot be done for GBC staff.
So in that case, what advice do you have for employers and those of us in active service now? Because definitely we're going to get to a
should
stage
establish a very close relationship with your employers. It's not all about certain benefits, but it's all about social security. Let HR set up. If they don't have, let your HR have a staff, okay, or somebody assign that task to handle social security contributions, etc. Where it has not been paid, you contact your director or CEO to see what can be done. And I feel that if it's done well, by the time you go, everything will be clean. We should show the interest, but majority don't show interest. They don't care. But I still pray and I still believe that GBC staff will come clean. I mean, they'll pay. They'll pay, because what is happening is a very serious matter, and I hope and urge MPRA to take a very serious view of this matter.
Mr. Joanna, unfortunately, we don't have enough time, and we hope to have you another time for an extensive interview. Thank you so much for giving us insights on this particular issue. And we've been speaking to Mr. Joanna. Thank you so much for your time. You're still watching News Hour, coming to you live on GBC News. Moving on, the Roads Minister, Kwesi Amoah-Akwata, has hinted that processes are underway to convert abandoned toll booths into washrooms in various parts of the country. According to the minister, the move is to ensure the cessation of the practice whereby commuters and drivers ease themselves by the roadside. The minister made this revelation after officials of the National Road Safety Authority, NRSA, appealed to the ministry to remove the various toll booths if government has no alternate use for them. The NRSA's concern is that the presence of the toll booths could cause road accidents. Interacting with the media after the meeting with the NRSA officials, Mr. Amoah-Akwata explained that it is also to address the washroom deficit on the various highways in the country. We are joined by a former president of the Ghana Institution of Engineering, Engineer Magnus Kwashi, as we broaden the discussion. Hello, good afternoon, Engineer, and thank you so much for joining us on News Hour. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello.
Thank you so much, Engineer Kwashi, for joining us on News Hour. Sir, may we know, is the conversion of the abandoned toll booths into washrooms the way to go?
Well, good afternoon.
Unfortunately, we can't hear what you're saying, sir. So if you can reposition yourself for us to have a conversation.
Can you hear me? Hello?
It's better, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on News Hour. I was asking if the conversion of abandoned toll booths into washrooms is the way to go.
Well, thank you very much, and good afternoon to you all. I haven't been following actual story, but is trying to develop it where there will be a strategic space along the highway. Okay, so that I'm aware it's a necessary component for any national highways. So I want to believe that the minister is having a policy, and usually the next step will be that they would engage, of course, consultants to develop concepts. These ones. Certainly, of course, you can't have a urinal or what of the roadway, but also eventually the ministry decide do where the toll booths are will be redesigned. Okay, but it's a policy statement, but it goes through a process, and so sure that we will really have the final interest of all 10 those where the individual the plaza is right now. But I do know the minister of the city is planning we call rest along the highway. Maybe if you travel every time, look, there's a place where you stop, take a rest, and have toilets of convenience. That's what's happening.
Let's get it clear. Will washrooms along the highways and motorways not cause traffic and accidents, especially where toll booths used to be sited?
Now, you see, all things within engineering are moved through efficient and proper design. So having restrooms, you see, I'm talking about restrooms. It means we will have places of convenience along highways will not cause accidents if they are designed properly. Okay, so what I'm saying is that I say that the minister must have said that they intend restrooms corridor. So this is a policy statement. It does not mean that, for example, if I go to them toll booths, or there are about 6 booths, each one of them where they are seated into a urinal. That what is going to happen is that the plan of having rest, which has places of cleaning, will be located at strategic position along the highway. Now, anywhere you have toll booth now, like I said, I am informed that the ministry will engage to properly engineer the location, okay, and make sure that any or traffic incident.
So you are talking about these restrooms located at strategic places are not necessarily using the toll booths as restrooms. So let's know from an expert view or point of view, what is the best way to dispose of the toll booths now that they are not in use?
Okay, now, given that what will happen, for example, so that all of links the passage of the so let's assume that they are no longer use toll booths to connect tolls. It may be necessary to redesign it. So I'll sound a bit technical. So sometimes you have about, which means that we have created this, which now merge. Now, because to control the traffic, it is able to slow down the peak gradually. In the event when we decide that these toll booths are no longer, we will have to redesign the toll booth, removing the booth and then making we undertake what we call business control. So we now have to make sure if we merge into two lanes, which makes it smoother and prevents of it and crash. So these areas will be redesigned and probably remove food curbs and plants and make sure that the food, like the other part of the book. Okay. Now, the analysis may show whether along the national highway, if these locations happen to coincide from study that these are the two locations for in record. So all of these things are stated. Okay. But I swear that the military plan, for example, to have rest stops in such a way that if you travel every 100, there is a place that a driver, particularly for long, to stop for the part of the journey, take a rest, then continue. Now, all of these form part of safety on our corridors. And sometimes you have trucks. There will be places for trucks to park off completely the road instead of parking along the road. You know, so these are all carefully, when these are carefully, they have a propensity of improving safety on our
Well, thank you so much, Engineer Magnus Kwashi, for the explanation. And we have in the studio Cecil Nyobodai Wentum. He is the head public affairs Ghana Highway Authority. Cecil,
yeah.
You've heard the news. Is it true or not? Is this just the media, one of those media reportage? Because Engineer Kwashi was saying that he's not been following this particular story, so he doesn't know if it says exactly the toll booth that's the abandoned toll booth that may or will be converted into washrooms. So can you clarify this issue? Are we converting the washroom, the abandoned toll booths into washrooms, or are there plans installed to convert them into other things, or putting them at strategic points on highways?
So that is not the position of the ministry, and it is not the position of the Ghana Highway Authority. I speak as the head of the public affairs of the Ghana Highway Authority. There was a meeting yesterday. I was in that meeting from beginning to the end. We had a meeting with the executives of the Contractors Association, and then we also inaugurated into office a committee that will advise the ministry on the mobile vans that move about with pre-mixed concrete and how they destroy our roads. They drop leftover concrete on our
destroying the road eventually.
And then at the end of the whole session, I think the media connect the minister and then ask about the toll booths. And I will be very emphatic here. He mentioned a number of proposals. And if you have followed the news, you would agree with me that indeed a number of proposals have come before the ministry, not only ministry, but government by extension, and even the National Road Safety Authority. And one of such is that we should even convert, instead of decommissioning and removing all of them, we should rather convert some of them into police posts. There's another suggestion that we should even use that place as points where we can educate motorists, drivers, and there's another suggestion, again, like you have just indicated, that we should use those places as rest stops. Rest stops. And you know what rest stop? A rest stop obviously will have a urinary, will have, and all those things. But the point is that look at the designs of some of these toll plazas that we look at. Take Temamoto, for instance. Take, use the commercial stretch, the number of toll plazas you see. Go to Kaswa. How can that be done? But engineering-wise, I'm sure they know what can be done. Let's even say, granted, that that's the position.
Engineers spoke about re-engineering. So.
Exactly. I am happy you have just talked about it. So it's about re-engineering, redesigning.
Yeah.
So it could be that if finally we decide that we're going to use those places for such facilities, how can that be redesigned? And these are all engineering solutions that will provide, answers. You understand? So it is not that we are leaving or the facility will be left there as it is and then people will stop over and then that's because there are several proposals and that was what the minister spoke about. It is unfortunate that we have allowed, again, and I'm just being cautious here, that a few media houses would want to trend with a negative news like this. You understand?
Yeah.
And everybody is following the news. There was so much that went on yesterday, and I wish that they would have focused on the exercise that went on yesterday to throw light.
So these proposals that you said
yes.
that have been tabled, when do we see
just as I said,
whatever?
I mean, these things cannot just happen. You need to engage the stakeholders. You can't just, and I don't think the ministry would have just decided that this is what I want to do. You need to engage stakeholders, and that has not even started. So that has not started. So, and even identifying the stakeholders is work. It takes some time to do that. So then identify all the stakeholders, and then now you decide which way forward. If that is the way forward, how do we go about it? How do we convert those places in? That is if we have agreed. If we have decided that we're going to use the place as police posts, as other suggestions have come through, how do we do it? How do we redesign? How do we re-engineer and convert those places? So, I mean, it's just unfortunate that,
But Cecil, I think you've heard about some drivers along the Kaswa stretch asking for the toll booth to come back because, according to them, the traffic is still there, and they don't think it was the toll booth that was causing traffic, which prompted the ministry.
So, I'm happy you have asked this question. A number of times I've had opportunity to speak to my media colleagues. I say this: data influences decision. If it is scientific, it influences decision. So when you tend to listen to people and they talk and say, oh, it is traffic, it is the toll booth that is causing traffic, it is the end. I have read reports coming from groups that say they have conducted some research, and according to them, the fuel we even burn in traffic to go and pay 50 pesos and 1 cedi is far more than the time we so what is the use? We have listened to such people. We have also listened to people who say that it is having effect on our vehicles. Again, nobody likes traffic because the more you stay in traffic, the more you're emitting fumes, and the more you are having impact on people who take in those fumes health-wise. The environment is affected. I can go. Granted that is the way forward, but the point is that we are the same people calling for more roads. We are the same people calling for good roads. We are the same people. But are we also thinking of how funding can be generated or how funding can be raised for the good roads we are asking for? We are paying far less than what we are asking for. And I think this is where the conversation must go and see how collectively as a country we will set up proper funding mechanisms to see how we can address some of the concerns everybody is asking for. I want a road, I want a road, I want a road, my road is not motorable, my road is not, yes. But how much are we paying for that? You have traveled, I have traveled, a number of us have traveled. We know that when you approach a toll booth in America, in Canada, you are paying not less than $5. But what is 50 pesos?
And 1 cedi.
And 1 cedi. That's the thing. So let's say $5 equivalent in cedis. We're talking about 30 cedis. Are we willing to pay 30 cedis and drive? But you see, again, it brings the chicken and egg argument. Do you want to pay more and get good roads? Or you want government to invest more in roads and then you pay more? That's the kind of argument we need to ask ourselves and see how we can address that.
So once you hear, let's take this issue. You know, the Achimota overhead. You could see some of the metal.
I know you have done it. I won't wait for you to land. I won't wait for you to land.
What is happening?
I won't wait for you to land.
Can you tell us what you're doing?
I know you have done a lot of work in that. I have watched some Facebook.
Exactly. And the real guards.
Exactly,
you know.
on the real guards. And people are destroying our structures. And some of these people are recalcitrant drivers that must be brought to book.
Have some been arrested yet?
Oh yes, as I speak to you, if I had known that you were going to come, I would have mentioned even specifically some of their registration numbers.
Okay.
Some of them, we are even waiting for the police to give us green light. And
Good job.
And I will use this opportunity to encourage Ghanaians, when you come across some of these people, take photographs and send them to us, and we will follow up. I mean, is one of my duty as the head of public affairs. When we interact with the public and we get to know some of this information, we will go after these people. They are recalcitrant. Some of them are drivers that do not come from this part of our country.
Yeah.
They are traveling up north, moving to the neighboring countries, and they know very well they violate the basic regulations that we have put in place in terms of height, in terms of width, in terms of weight. They violate all those basic regulations and they get out of. When they get to the border, you know what they do? They offload their vehicles and make sure they satisfy the regulations before they enter their countries. Why is it so? Because over there, the laws bite.
Okay.
But we have made it
in just 5 seconds, then can you look into the camera and tell the public whether these abandoned toll booths will really be used for restrooms or not? Just let them know.
I have said it and I'll say again that this is not the position that the ministry has taken. There are proposals, several proposals that has got into the ministry, and consideration has not been given yet to any of those proposals. So they must be rest assured, when consideration is given to any of those proposals, there are a litany of them, I'm sure we will communicate to them appropriately.
All right, thank you very much, Cecil. Cecil Neopodai Wintum is the head public affairs Ghana Highway Authority, and he has debunked stories making rounds that the various toll booths, abandoned toll booths, will be converted into restrooms. You're still watching News Committee live on GBC News. A study carried out by KNUST scientists has revealed that consumers of street-vended fufu and fried rice may be suffering from ailments caused by the presence of camphor or naphthalene both in their foods. This is after research found dangerous levels of camphor in these foods. Naphthalene is a main ingredient in camphor in Ghana and has frequently been used in the purification of water.
The study, published in the Polycyclic Aromatic Compounds Journal, aims to assess the occurrence of camphor in street-vended foods through the handling practices of vendors. Naphthalene was detected in all food samples used for the study in concentrations ranging from 1.7 to 6.5 mg/kg1. The concentration of camphor was as high as 6,500 mg/kg in rice and hot pepper sauce samples. The researchers explained that the high levels of naphthalene could be attributed to the use of camphor, which the vendors put in stored water as water purification agent or use as insect repellent in storage rooms. Stored water containing mothballs were used for all cooking and vending processes such as boiling of rice, for fried rice meal, or storage of excess cassava used for fufu. It is also used in soup preparation for fufu. The lead scientist, Gloria Mathanda Akabreu, advised that eliminating the use of camphor in water and finding alternative means of storing water would greatly reduce the health risk associated with these street-vended meals. They recommend that policies be reviewed on the use of mothballs at food preparation areas. A similar case study in 2019, published in the Journal of Pan-African Medicine, found that naphthalene can cause acute kidney injury. Some other effects include nausea, vomiting, abdominal cramps, and diarrhea. Neurological symptoms such as confusion, excitement, and convulsion.
Tyson Mills over there, but we are joined on the phone lines by the lead researcher, Madam Gloria Akabreu, to help us discuss the findings of the research further. Hello, good afternoon, madam. Thank you so much for joining us on News Hour.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. But what went into the research?
Actually, we wanted the kind of things that I expected that led us into going into research.
Madam, unfortunately, we can hardly hear you. I'm sure if you reposition yourself, we can have a good feedback.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Sure, that's better. So can you also just briefly tell us what went into the research?
Well, okay, like I mentioned earlier, we wanted to know the hazards that were associated with consuming street-vended food at the time of the research. So that's what led to doing the food research.
So is a chemical composition in camphor safe for human consumption?
Kindly, I couldn't hear them.
I was asking if the chemical composition in camphor is safe for human consumption.
The chemical composition in camphor is naphthalene. It's naphthalene. We have a mixed derivative. That's 1-methyl naphthalene or 2-methyl naphthalene. And it's one of the probable human carcinogens. And so really it's not safe for human consumption. Yeah.
So when does naphthalene be distractful or not good for human consumption? At what level is naphthalene
for
safe?
adults, when we are exposed to levels between 5 and 15 grams, and for children between 2 and then 5 grams, is not fit for human consumption. That's the level.
So can you also tell us the risk associated with consuming food with unsafe levels of naphthalene?
Yes. When we have unsafe levels of naphthalene in the food, when you have unsafe levels of naphthalene in the food, you can have abdominal signs like we said in the week. You can have vomiting, diarrhea, but the acute one is hemolytic anemia. Hemolytic anemia, where you have your red blood vessels degrading in the body, and also you can have cataracts forming on your eyes. And that is one of the most dangerous forms you can have.
So are these life-threatening ailments?
Yes, they are life-threatening. Yes, please.
All right then, thank you, Madam, for all the insights, and we all try and be careful when buying street vended foods. Health facilities operating under the Ghana Health Service, that is the largest agency under the Ministry of Health, appeared before the Public Accounts Committee on Tuesday. Anomalies were cited in the financial transaction of a number of the facilities and non-compliance with the procurement laws. The committee ordered the refund to the state of unaccounted revenue. This is our committee live on GBC News. We're taking a short break. We'll be back with the business segment. Please stay on. You're still watching News Hour. This is Business, and my name is Esther Eidu Ohumebu.
The downgrading of economies in Africa by rating agencies have generated a lot of controversies due to the COVID-19 headwinds, with some analysts claiming the latest ratings overlook resilience shown by countries on the continent during the crisis. However, the World Bank Vice President for Western and Central Africa, Usman Diagana, addressing the media in Accra, says the challenges that come with ratings could be addressed by shoring up revenue generation.
It's about mobilizing financial resources essential for the implementation of the vision and policy that I have mentioned. But it's also working together to make sure that those resources are utilized in effective manner. So for us, as development institution, those are what is key in providing those type of advice and trying to mobilize in timely manner resources. We will certainly contribute to speedy implementation of the program, but in the same time to support the reform that will allow the country to generate the domestic revenue that it needs in order to become independent at some point vis-à-vis of any financial organization, including, of course, those who monitor the implementation of and therefore do the rating of the country policy.
And that was business. Thanks for watching.